All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you very much for being here today. People on stream, yes, my video is going to block what is up here. I'm just telling people check out the recorded stream at that link right there. Don't worry, you'll see it again soon. Now it's time for me to go on camera, so here we go. All right, announcements. So Tuesdays, as you well know, going to do lectures for the Computing Essentials text on Tuesdays. Labs are going to be on Thursdays. Yes, I did get the Thursday content uploaded to the YouTube channel, so that did work. So if I ever forget again, I can just export it from Twitch and put it into YouTube. So that's what I'll do if I ever forget to do that again. I did not forget to do that today. This is the second shortest chapter that I'm going to present on this semester. Chapter 7 will be the shortest of all chapters that I'm going to present on, but chapter 1 usually goes pretty quick. So just to give you a little background here, so with chapter 1 is essentially going to talk about almost all the various chapters that I'm going to talk about in this class, all the different topics I'm going to talk about in this class. So this chapter goes pretty quick because you're going to get more detail on every one of these chapters as we go through the class. So today is going to be a nice overview of what we're going to go through on Tuesdays for the rest of the time. And as I said before, I am not a podium speaker. So think about technology, right? A lot of people use it, A lot younger people use it than before, a lot older people use it than before. So as time has gone on, I've seen people that said, there's no way I'm going to use technology ever. I've been related to these people. And they thought I was crazy for using technology. You're crazy buying a computer for $2,000. What are you thinking? It was my money. I worked for it. So I bought a computer, right? It worked out pretty good in my opinion. But I had people tell me in my family, there's no way I'm getting a phone. Guess what they all ended up doing? They all got phones. It took a long time, but they all ended up getting phones. I said, I am not helping you. I stopped helping my family members with computing questions because I'm like, it's called Google. Where do you think I'm going to go for the answer? That's all I did. So I'm like, you just type in what you want and it gives it to you. It's not rocket science. So we now see a lot more people using technology today than we've seen ever before. Almost every industry requires technology now, which is awesome. So, a little background on this too. So, I did jokingly, not really jokingly, say that I had the 2008 Computing Essentials book. In that book, only 5 of these 6 things were in it. So, but the last part, the internet, is probably the most important part of all of this in an information system. So there are 6 parts. There's people. You're going to hear me talk about this again. Remember, if you weren't here and you missed the first few minutes, this is an overview of the rest of the stuff we're going to talk about in this class for the rest of the semester. So people, the most important part of the information system. Procedures. Well, we need instructions sometimes, but there's something that we use in this class a lot that also needs instructions, and that is these things that are in front of you. They require instructions or procedures also. Software and hardware. So you're going to hear me talk about software before you hear me talk about hardware more than one time during this course. So think about this. When we're looking at software, the software tells us what hardware it can be installed on. So when you're looking at software, you should look at software first before you look at hardware. Just like when you're buying a computer, you should think about all the applications you're going to need to run, like especially as a student, us as students, right? Have to do that. So then you think about, do I really need the fast computer or not? It's possible you don't need a fast computer. You just need a computer. So software and hardware. Data. I'm going to talk about data today in relation to information. Data and information are not the same thing. Yes, that's in your extra credit. Data and information are not the same thing. So just keep that in mind as well. And last but not least, connectivity, the internet. The internet should have always been one of the 6 parts from this publisher, but they finally put it in. I forget what year they finally put it in. But without connectivity, we can't access any of the resources that are out there on the servers, out in the cloud. Sorry about that. Okay. That's better. All right. So as I said before, the most important part of any information system is us. We are the most important part, regardless. There's two different ways that we come in contact with information systems. First, we come into contact with it directly, meaning you're the one doing all the inputting, like maybe your address, your phone number, your basic information into a form. You are directly working with that information system. Think about the student information system. Every single one of us in this room deals with it. Yes, we all do. So there are times where we get to choose our classes. We're the ones that are inputting the data. We're directly working with the system. Then there are times where somebody goes, well, the class is full and I need to be added to the class. Can you add me to the class? I get those requests all the time. So the student's in that case, is not interacting with the system. I am. So in that case, the student is indirectly working with the system. You're asking somebody else to put in the information into the system, and that person does it for you. Okay, so that's the difference between direct and indirect. If you've ever been on a wait list for any class in this college, if you haven't, good on you. But if you have to be, that would be a case where it would be indirect working with, you're asking the instructor to give you the override into the class. Now, I said earlier, almost every industry uses technology, but we are the most important part of any system. Yeah, I think the batteries finally went on this thing. Okay, so next up, I'm going to talk about software. You're like, but Nick, you jumped over procedures. As I said earlier, everybody, if you think about what procedures actually are, like their instructions, their steps, I'm not going to go into major detail on that. I'm just letting you know that yes, we as humans need them, we as people need them, and so do computers, as I mentioned before. So there are two different types of software. There's software that we use, apps, if you want to refer it to apps, right? Application software, we use those. And there's software the computer uses, and that's system software. Okay. That's better. All right, so first I'm going to talk about apps or application software. There's three different types of application software. And application software is also called end user software because, well, we are the what? We're the end users, right? We're the people that use the software. So there's three different types, and I'm going to go into more detail if you were just joining us late. I'm going to go into more detail on what these are when we talk about each of these chapters. I'm not doing all the detail today. So there are three different types of application software. There's general purpose applications, which are applications that most of us, a lot of us use. There's specialized applications, which you find in industries, specific industries, especially like the medical field, the construction field, computer-aided manufacturing. Those are specialized applications. There's a lot of specialized applications. And if I have to tell you what a mobile application is, I think we're in a lot of trouble. You know I'm not going to do that. One of these batteries in here appears to be cut, so guess what I get to do today? All right, fourth chapter is system software. So system software enables the apps that we download to interact with the computer hardware. Remember what I said before? We got to think about the software first so that we know what hardware to install it on. So software is always first in that consideration. System software is referred to as background software that helps manage various resources, including how much of the central processing unit is being used, how much memory is being used, how much storage space is being used. At what times is my system going to perform a backup? What times is my operating system going to perform updates? It's those kinds of things. And they include operating systems, utilities, and device drivers. So if you don't know what an operating system is, yes, I'm going to be talking about this in chapter 4. The purpose of the operating system is to coordinate the computer's resources. I told you about that already. But the main thing is that it gives us a user interface. It gives us the ability to work with the device. Think about your phones. If you don't have an operating system on your phone, how good is your phone?
Not very good.
Are you going to be able to call? No? You don't have like just ones that have no operating system like me and just use them as paperweights or coasters? No? No, you don't use old phones as coasters? Okay. There's going to come a point for some of you where you're like, I get a new phone like every year. What am I going to do with all these other ones? I'm not going to sell them. I'm going to keep them all. That's what I ended up doing. So anyhow, it provides us with the user interface. So without an operating system, we really can't do anything with it. And another main thing that an operating system does is it allows us to run all the applications that we install. I'm going to go into more detail on this stuff when we get to the chapter. So utilities. So antivirus programs, backup programs. We are going to run through several utilities that you can use. And yes, you can also buy software like Norton Utilities, for example. They have a whole bunch of different utilities all in one package. But I want you to think about those as applications that allow us to perform specific tasks related to managing the computer's resources. Again, we're going to go into like major detail on this when we get to chapter 4. Most of us don't think about device drivers. And some of you, if you don't know what a device driver actually is, it's a little tiny program. You install it, and it allows you, your computer, to interface with whatever we're plugging into the computer. So for example, in the old days when I would buy a printer, and I'd plug it into the computer, and the computer wouldn't recognize the printer, I would have to go to the manufacturer's website and download the device driver. Now, with every version of an operating system, you ready for this one? There are thousands and thousands and thousands of device drivers added. So that when you plug something into your computer, plug and play, right? You plug it in, it's supposed to work. So what I tell people is, if you're ever faced with a time where you plug something into the computer and it does not work, don't take the device back to where you bought it from or send it back. The device that you're plugging in, you got to go to that manufacturer's website and see if there's a device driver for it. It's like you just download it, you install it. Like it's intuitive. You just download it and install it. It is that easy. And then the device works. The problem that I have these days is that, God love her, my wife loves to get old equipment and see if we can hook it up. So my problem now is if it's an old printer, I've got to go find that device driver, install it, and then it magically works again. So just keep in mind that device drivers, though, you may never have to deal with that. I'm just putting it out there for awareness purposes. Yes, I'm going to have to do this today because one of the batteries looks like it got cut somehow. Anyway, there are 4 main types of hardware. The first is supercomputers. If you've ever seen Watson commercials or IBM Watson, yes, that is a supercomputer. Supercomputers used to take up like whole buildings, whole floors. IBM's Watson is customizable, it's smaller, it still takes up quite a bit of space, but it is very, very powerful. Very powerful of the 4. I'm just gonna relate each one of these to each other. Way more powerful than mainframes, mid-range computers, or personal computers. A lot of large organizations rely on those supercomputers for data and research. And you may even be accessing these supercomputers and you don't even know you are. Because yes, there are many organizations that put data out there. We access that data through the web. And so you could be using a supercomputer and you just don't know it. Mainframe computers are normally found in cold rooms. That's the picture to the right of Watson up here on the slide. So insurance companies have these. Maricopa Community Colleges had these for a very, very, very long time. Yes, we actually had an email system prior to Google. And yes, I didn't realize that I worked in the building that it had been, like, the servers were stored in. So they had these massive mainframe computers. And of course, I got called in there to do something one time, and nobody told me how cold those rooms were. Yes, we have one of those rooms downstairs. Yes, on our field trip, if you want to go in there, I'll let you run around in there. But it is cold. It gets cold. I'm just letting you know that. So yes, again, less powerful than supercomputers, but more powerful than mid-range computers. So mid-range computers, A lot of file servers. A lot of file servers out there on the web are mid-range computers. They're not massive computers. So these mid-range computers, a lot smaller. Some people have them in their homes just to act as file servers, just so that they can access files anywhere in their home. But they are, again, more powerful than personal computers, meaning more storage space, faster access speed, but less powerful than mainframes and supercomputers. So again, these are going to go in order: supercomputer, mainframe, mid-range, and last but not least, the stuff that we use almost every day. Okay, fine, you use it every day. You have a phone. Personal computers. So there are 5 types of personal computers. Yes, I'm going to be talking about this a little bit more in Chapter 5. I know I don't have the Chapter 5 thing up there, but we'll be talking more about these in Chapter 5. So desktops. So the evolution of desktops over time have been interesting. Back in the 80s, 90s, when you bought a home computer, it was big. Like, it was big. Like, there were these massive towers, and you had to haul them around. You know where I'm going to end up going with this, because they're back. So we used to end up having to haul those around. And then over time, desktops got smaller and smaller and smaller. You see this big contraption I have right here? This big thing right here? You know how big the computer is inside of there? You fit it in your hand. It's a little tiny thing. That's it, that powers this. Scary stuff, right? You also have desktops. I'm going to go into detail on what these are when we get to Chapter 5. I mean, you have a desktop. It's called an all-in-one unit. By the way, the computer, just to let you all know, is the one that has the camera. That's the computer. That's the computer. The other one's just a monitor. I'm just letting you know that. It's on the top. You'll see it. You just push in, and it pops up. Yeah, where the webcam is. So anyway, desktops started getting smaller and smaller and smaller. They're still small today. However, my gaming people know that you can't have a little tiny desktop if you want to have any performance at all. You got to have the big towers again. We're back to the big towers again. Yes, I have one at home. So yes, it's got the little red, green, and blue lights and stuff on it. Yes. So yes, we're back to large towers again for performance. But laptops, what do you like about laptops? Bless you. What's good about laptops?
Portable.
They're portable, right? We can take them around. They're not as heavy on average as desktops. We can open it up, we can turn it on, we can use it, and it's nice. However, with laptops, you can't upgrade them like you can with desktops. You can't upgrade them that easily. What about tablets? Why do you like tablets so much? They're even smaller. But what's the one limitation? We can only install what on tablets?
Apps.
What type of apps? Like, where do they come from?
App Store.
App stores! Thank you. That's a great answer. Okay, I love it. I told you this class was going to be way better than my last. You heard this. This class is going to be better than all of you in the past. You watch. Okay, so, yes, but we can only install. And can we upgrade tablet? I mean, can we upgrade the actual tablet that we have, or what do we have to do in that case if we want something better? We're gonna go buy another one, right? That's the only bummer about that. But anyway, tablets. So tablets over time, and you're gonna hear me talk about this, they started getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Now what are they doing? They're getting bigger. All of us older people that had to go through that whole, let's get smaller ones, to now I'm like, I need new glasses, and now I'm gonna have a larger screen. Okay, so tablets are awesome though. All right, I hope you know what a smartphone is. If you don't, I think we're in a heck of a lot of trouble. Where are my watch people? Where are we at? There you go, we got our wearable devices now. We got rings, we got all kinds of neat wearable devices now. Yes, last Black Friday, I got a watch. Guess how often I wear it? I told my wife I wasn't gonna wear it. So she goes, so it just sits there? I'm like, it just sits there. Like, you can have it. No, I'm not gonna wear one either. I'm like, I know, right? Kids, you want it? No, Dad, just keep it. Okay. So wearable devices are awesome as well. Again, you can have your contacts on there. You can send text messages through your watches now. Of course, I got like, that was the only problem, I couldn't type. So I'm like, My finger was like hitting 4 keys at once. It was terrible. Okay. All right. Up next. So these are chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8. So with personal computers, we have various types of hardware. I sort of already talked about the different types of system units in the previous slide. I gave you all of those. So the system unit, yes, houses all the electronic components for your computer. There are various input-output devices, secondary storage devices, and communications. Again, these are chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8 when we get to them. We're going to start with this one. So here's another trick question that people told me was a trick question, because there is a question, it might be on your extra credit, that says there are 2 parts to a system unit, and I probably should have reworded it to there are 2 main parts to a system unit, the microprocessor and the memory. And that is a true, if that's a true false, that's a true answer. So anyhow, the microprocessor is the brains of the computer. Again, we're going to get more into this when we get to chapter 5. So there are many different types of microprocessors out there. Yes, some cost a heck of a lot of money, but again, we'll go into that in chapter 5. But it is the brains of the computer, so without a microprocessor or a damaged microprocessor, your device will not work. Okay. Memory. Now we're not talking about storage space. That's secondary storage. This is memory. So memory is usually found on chips, like the one you see down below on the slide. Memory holds the data that is currently being processed. It holds that processed information before its output. And keep in mind, it's temporary storage. That means that when we turn the device on, memory starts being used. Every application we open, more memory gets used. And then as we close applications, the memory becomes free to use. So it's always changing. I used to love that. People would hand me a tablet and go, how come this is so slow? And then you find out there's 50 applications open. And you're like, okay, it's working great now. No? No, you haven't done that? Okay, all right. So you find out there's like 50 applications open. You're like, how do you have this many applications? No wonder it's slow. So remember that memory gets used the more applications you have open. Or my coworkers that have 1,000, yes, you heard me, 1,000 Chrome tabs open. I'm like, how do you live? I have 1 Chrome tab open when I'm dealing with Chrome. Okay, so memory is a great thing to have. I will go way more deep into memory because there are many types of memory when we get to chapter 5. Chapter 6 covers input and output devices. There are very few examples I'm listing up here, but here's one thing I'm going to talk about when we get to chapter 6, and that is there are way more input devices than there are output devices. And I'm going to ask you the question, I should ask you the question now, why is that? Why do we need more input devices than output? Because for input, we need different ways to interact with what?
System.
Yes! So we have to have a bunch of different ways to do that. And of course, that includes using microphone, like your talk to text, right? That's an input, that's input. The microphone is the input. The speaker is the output, right? So yes, we need way more different ways to interact with the computer or the device through input rather than getting so many different, because there's only a few different ways we can get output. There's like, we hear it, we see it, and maybe we like, if it's 3D printer, we can like, but that's it. That's it. Right, the fastest of all the chapters is going to be secondary storage. It is one of my favorite topics because without a place for us to save our work, and this includes servers, this includes the cloud. You're going to hear me talk about the cloud a lot in this class. Various types of media, as you see up here on the board, it's all there. But when we save our files, when we turn off the computer, the files that we've saved are there. Of course, we should be making backups in case we try to turn it on and nothing comes up, right? We should have backups of all of our data, right? So think about storing files to a server, or we call it the cloud. You store it there, and it's there, and you can access it from any computer that you log into, and the files are all there. So it's not listed here as secondary storage, but it is another type of secondary storage. Yes, I'm going to talk about optical disks. Never forget the first time I showed my oldest son one of those. He goes, which is like 22 now. And he goes, what? He found a CD in my room, and he's like, Dad, what is this? I know the band, but what are these things? I'm like, that's right, you're too young to know what CDs were. So yes, I'm going to talk about some of those things. I'm going to talk about the traditional hard disk. You're going to hear me call it the traditional hard disk. Your text does not call it that. But I call it that because those spinning platters with those disks have been around since the 80s, 70s, 80s. They've been around for a long time. So that's the traditional hard disk. Now we all use solid state technology where there's no moving parts whatsoever. Every one of the machines in here has a solid state drive. That's why when you go in, it's really fast to turn the computer on, log in, it's fast. So I've got stories about that. I'll wait until we get to chapter 7 before I proceed with that. We also have to have a way to communicate with other networks, other people, other devices, and we need devices like modems, for example, to be able to do that. Now, we have wireless access points all over this building in every room. Yeah, they're the little tiny rectangular boxes you see up on the ceiling. So, yes, if you're using the Wi-Fi here and you want to connect to the PC network and all that, you can do that through these wireless access points and also the modems. But you're not going to see the actual modems because they're in data closets. So you still got to have a modem to be able to access resources, and that's what we're all using here in the lab. You just don't actually physically see it anymore. It's out in the data closet. At home, on our personal computers, we don't see the modems anymore. We don't see, well, probably because we have our modem like in a room somewhere, right? And we can access it wirelessly. We don't really see that stuff anymore. But we all do need modems, believe it or not. It's still being used. They don't make noise anymore. Nobody's in here is old enough to remember that, okay? So yes, they used to make really, really loud sounds. You can go look those videos up on YouTube. I played that for my wife the other day, and she goes, "Really, Nick? Really?" I'm like, you remember when we used to have to connect like that, and you had to plug the telephone in and go, "Sorry, I'm using the phone." That angered my dad so much. I'm like, well, you're not going to use it. Neither is Grandma, so I may as well use it. Nick, you've been on there for 6 hours. I'm like, I'm trying to download something. Yes, you try and go through that. Okay, so anyway, modems modify our audio, our video, other types of data into a form that can be transmitted across the internet to somebody else. A lot of us use our devices, and that communication happens so fast, we don't even think about that anymore. All right, data and information are not the same things. I like to tell people this. Over the course of your day today, you are going to get a lot of data. Most of it you're not going to care about. You're like, really? Yes, because I'm the same way. A lot of stuff out here I don't care about. But the data that you truly care about becomes information. New information to you, information that you can use, information that you can understand. The book wants you to think about this as binary code, zeros and ones. That's what a computer is supposed to understand. That's raw, unprocessed fact. Bless you. But when we actually see it output, that's information. Okay? We don't care about the binary code. We care about what we're seeing in front of us. That's the information. And yes, there are literally thousands of different files out there where digital data is stored. In this class, you are going to be working with 4 different types of files. Yes, I'm obligated to talk about these. You'll be dealing with document files, worksheet files, database files, and presentation files. Yes, in that order. Thursday, we will start working with document files. So please keep in mind that all it is a word processor. Most of you will probably answer, well, I write essays with word processors. Yes, I do too. You can use word processors to do a lot more than just write reports and create resumes. I know resume is another big one that people like to use word processors for. But believe it or not, the Microsoft products offer a lot of different templates. So you don't have to do everything from scratch anymore. And of course, there's AI too. I'm not going to talk about that right now, though. But yes, I've had artificial intelligence write recommendation letters for students before. I love it. I'm like, write a recommendation letter for, put the name in, and it just generates the letter for me. And I'm just like, I'm really good at this. So someday I'm just going to ask the student, why don't you write your own recommendation letter and I'll just sign it. From me. No, it's not how it's going to work in the future. The student will just generate the letter and then I'll just sign it. Then I don't have to do it. No? But anyway, you can do a lot more with word processors than just, if you can think it, certificates, brochures, you name it, you can create all that stuff with word processors. The ultimate calculator. I stopped using calculators when I started mastering Excel. Because yes, Excel lets you do a lot more calculations than a calculator can, a lot more. You will never, ever, ever use all the different functions in Excel in your lifetime. Trust me, I'm at year 30 of doing this or more, probably longer. I think I'm at more like 35 years of doing this. But I've tried to use every function in Excel. It just can't be done. I mean, you can try, but you're going to use probably about maybe what, 1/100th, 1/200th of what they offer, and that's probably all you're going to use over your course of your life. But Excel is great, especially when you're analyzing data. When you're analyzing data, when you're making calculations, because you can create charts, graphs from your data, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful tool. And yes, we are going to spend the most lab time we're going to spend is in Excel this semester, out of all the programs. So yes, you will get a pretty good amount of information. Yes, information, you heard me say that. It's not going to be data to you, it will be information that you can actually use. I've got a whole chapter on databases. I didn't put this up here. Chapter 11 is our database chapter. So databases, if you want to think about this, why a database and why not a spreadsheet? So when we want to centralize our data in an organization, we're going to use a database. People will log into the database and they will have access to the data that's in there. Okay? But the good news about that is that we don't have like 20 copies of the data. It's all in one database. And then people log in and they access that database. So that, again, there's not like 20 copies of it. There's no redundancy, is what I call it. You're going to hear me refer to it as redundancy when we get to chapter 11. It's also highly structured and highly organized, meaning the data is usually found in what is called tables. Those tables in some databases are related to one another. And you can create reports. Yes, you can generate a lot of reports, a lot of queries from that data, but it's all centralized as opposed to having 20 copies of a spreadsheet, where people just put different things into the spreadsheet, and sometimes we don't know what people have done to the spreadsheet. But with the database, if a change is made to the database, we log in, we actually see that change. Okay? Then I'm also going to go into what database administrators do, and I'm going to do a lot of that stuff in chapter 11. So I've got a whole chapter on databases. I hope you know what presentation files do. Yes, I've seen a lot of horrible presentations given over the course of my lifetime, and I mean horrible. It's where you walk in and the slides are white and there's like black bullet points on it, and that's it. There's no color, there's no formatting, there's nothing. I actually walked out of a conference once because somebody did that. Does everybody saw the look on my face when the person was getting ready to present? I'm like, no, I can't watch this. I told all my coworkers, I'm like, I can't watch this. Are you going to watch this? I can't watch it. So I actually left and I peeked in, and all the slides had no formatting whatsoever on it. It was just like white slides with black bullet points, and I'm like, oh. And the person talking wouldn't like change their tone or anything. It was all like, I'm like, oh, I gotta get out of here. Now look at the itinerary. When's the next session? And everyone's like, where were you the last 3 hours? I didn't want to hear that. Like, how many of you fell asleep during that presentation? All my coworkers went, well, we all did. So you should be able to use presentations the way that you want to. People should be focusing on what you're saying and not all the flying stuff that goes on behind you. That's another pet peeve I have. Don't ever give a presentation where there's stuff flying behind you, because guess where I'm going to be looking? You're looking there. Normally I have my clicker and everything, folks, so batteries died, so I will get that fixed. Oh! That's the other piece of news I have for you. I'm still waiting for an answer on which option to buy SimNet with. So when I get that, I sent the message, So when I get an answer to that, I will send it all out to you in your Canvas inbox. Or I'll just tell you, one of the two. All right, chapter 2. Chapter 2 is all about the internet and the web. Keep in mind that the internet and the web are two different things. They are not the same. So when we talk about connectivity, I talked about connectivity earlier, chapter 8. This is the sharing of information. And a lot of us now use the cloud, or we use servers to communicate. We don't necessarily, when we use our devices, but that has to be transmitted over, right, through the internet. So if you want to think about the cloud, let me just talk about this. All the cloud is it's a bunch of servers. That's it. It's a bunch of servers. Our data is stored out there. Whenever you send an email, guess what? It's saved to the cloud. Whenever you send something, it's sent to the cloud. But just keep in mind that the term cloud computing, and I hear people typing, that means you're actually doing your extra credit. Because I can't tell you to do that. So anyway, cloud computing uses the internet and the web to shift what we normally save on our computers to shifting it to servers on the internet. And you're going to hear me talk about the cloud quite a bit in this class. You're going to probably get tired of it at some point, but that's essentially what we're doing. We're saving everything to servers. We're using the wireless revolution now. The wireless revolution has been around for a long time now. We do a lot more things wirelessly than ever before. And you will notice that under computer networks here, I say that it comprises of 2 or more devices, not necessarily 2 or more computers, because it is possible for your home network to only have 1 computer, but you're still communicating with another device, like a printer, for example. Because yes, printers are printers. Those are output devices. Those are not defined as computers. So that's why I changed it to devices. So some people go, well, that's a good question. So how do we define the internet? What the heck is the internet itself? Great question, isn't it? I haven't done this chapter yet. It's coming up next week. We're doing it next week. But here's how I want you to think about the internet, okay? There are 2 main things I'm going to talk about next week. The first of those is the internet itself, because we would not have the web without the internet. The internet is the physical infrastructure, like the wires, the servers, the satellites, anything that's physical, I want you to think about as the internet, okay? All that connectivity. The web is a result of the internet, and that is files that are stored out there on web servers we see in our web browsers. Okay, so the web is far different than the internet. The web contains the resources that are stored on the internet. And just remember, the world's largest network is called, it's up on the board, it's in the question. The world's largest network is the internet itself. The internet is a network of networks. You're going to hear me talk a lot about that next week. That's chapter 2. All right, so driving forces of technology that are still here. The shift to saving everything to servers instead of on our local computers or devices, cloud computing, that's a big one. We're going to have access now to more resources than ever before over the course of history out there on servers. Wireless technology. More and more wireless technology is continuing to be out there. Yes, even driverless cars, right? My God. Don't get me started on that topic. Nobody get me started on that topic. No, I would rather walk 5 miles in 115-degree heat than take one of those things. So, which I have. I've done that before. So, I'm a native. What can I say? I'm used to this stuff. So anyhow, wireless technology is definitely out there. You will notice that I really don't like going behind the podium to advance these slides. That's my biggest pet peeve as a presenter. So yeah, today I just don't have the batteries in front of me, but I will get those changed out before our next lecture session. Last but not least, the Internet of Things. So we're seeing more and more and more devices like refrigerators, cars, televisions that have network capability. So we're seeing more of that now than ever before. If you go out there and you look at IoT YouTube videos, which that's a great rabbit hole if you have 3 to 4 hours time, but you don't like rabbit holes, okay, but there's even, I go down YouTube rabbit holes and I don't come out of them for like hours. So I'm just letting you know, there's some great IoT videos that you can just search on Internet of Things and find that stuff. But there's like coffee makers that you can text and it makes the coffee. It's like, there's like a lot of things out there now. But also with that comes different threats and vulnerabilities and ways to attack, new ways for hackers to attack and crackers to attack networks. So yes, I'll be talking about hackers and crackers in this class. That's chapter 8, or not 8, 9, that's chapter 9, it's coming. You can disregard the page numbers on this one, but I am going to talk about various careers in information technology as this course continues. I'm just letting you know that. So these are just a sample of the different careers that I will be discussing over the course of this class. There are many. And if you're a person who's a major in our program, yes, you'll have to take CIS111, or excuse me, English 111, which is technical writing. All right. At the end of every chapter, there's a short look to the future. So all I'm going to tell you about this is, as time goes on, especially over these last 25 years, I'm going to tell you, the technology 25 years ago and now is like it's tremendously better now than it was 25 years ago. Yes, I was in my 20s 25 years ago. I'm going to tell you, things were slow. Like, stuff was just slow. It was awful. If I had this technology back then, I'd be a billionaire right now and not be here. But anyway, we're going to see more powerful software, more powerful hardware. Hopefully costs will either stay where they're at now, even though for $500 now I can get a lot more computer than I could get 10, 15 years ago for $500. So, I don't know. Maybe it is getting better. But anyway, again, security, privacy, and ethics. I'm going to actually be talking about that in chapter 9. That's going to be a good one because I'm going to have some figures in there. I'm going to have some examples, and we're going to talk about viruses and all kinds of fun stuff in chapter 9. But with organizations, they need to come up with better security policies. That's number one. So what happens if the organization gets hacked, right? And all the systems go down. What do? So organizations need to be thinking about this like all the time, like all the time. And if you end up taking my CIS105 class, you'll end up seeing all that once again. All right. Reminders for Thursday. So you should have first Word Chapter 1 SimBook completed by Thursday, if you haven't already. I know some people have, so that's good. Good for you. I like that. But keep in mind that SimBooks are your responsibility outside class, and we will be working on the first Word project together on Thursday. I will go over the steps. I will talk about what tabs are versus groups and all that stuff once again. You'll hear me talk about all that once again at the beginning of the project on Thursday. Don't worry, I'm going to go through it step by step so you know exactly where to go, exactly what to do, and you should all pretty much get 100% on that. But again, if you miss a half point, please don't make me come over there for the half point. I mean, I'll be happy to help you. It's just that it's a half point out of 1,400. It's okay, I can give it to you at the end of the semester. It's fine. Oh, that's right. Okay, people online, I want to thank you all very much for watching this video. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day and week. I hope to see you on Thursday. We'll see you at the next session.